Hello everyone, again another Sunday Musicians Café. Welcome to the 7th episode. Today we'll have a very good friend of mine, Parvis Hejazi, and I'm very happy that this is going towards a good direction, and we have many interesting guests. Let me check everything is working. If you are on the chat, you want to drop a message already to check if you can hear me, you can see me properly. Should be all fine. As I was saying, today is the 7th episode, and I'm very happy for how the things are going with this little show. For the incredible guests we had, as you know, the Sunday Musicians Café is an informal online meeting between friends to talk about topics that are around musicians' life and practice routines, topics that somehow maybe the majority of people that is listening now which follow this little series of talks, they don't talk about normally, so it's interesting in my opinion. So today, as I was saying, we have Parvis, which is a very dear friend to me, and we played on Friday a concert together. So we are not only friends and colleagues, but we are partners in music. So we made music together, and it was such a good experience, and we'll talk about this maybe. And in a minute I will invite him to the chat to have this relaxed conversation on Sunday afternoon. I hope everyone is enjoying his Sunday afternoon with a cup of coffee or tea, whatever you're doing. The weather in London is incredibly good and is very enjoyable. I hope wherever you are in the world at the moment, you are experiencing the same. All right, let's invite Parvis to have this nice talk. Should be live in a second. I want to say hi to everyone in the chat. Thank you for being here every Sunday and enjoying our talks. If you have any questions as well on topics or whatever curiosities you would like to be enlightened in, please don't hesitate to drop a message in the chat, and yeah, we will try to do our best. He's telling me that Parvis is not able to join. Let me invite him again. It should be.
Hello.
Can you hear me? We can.
I can hear you and see you. But I don't think you can
see you. We cannot see you.
Okay. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Okay.
Well, you have to turn the camera. Exactly.
Fantastic. Very good. Hello. How are you?
Very good, Parvis. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. And I was saying to the audience that we had a concert on Friday, playing together,
yes.
And it was such an incredible adventure, and the audience was thrilling for the Browns, and we left them with a lot of adrenaline. What do you think?
Absolutely. No, I heard your comments before, and I absolutely agree. It was a wonderful concert, and people were on their feet at the end of the Brahms because it was so electrifying. I think for both of us, and I think that transmitted to the audience.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, how are you spending your Sunday afternoon? Chilling after? I mean, this week was for you such a ride. You should tell us, what do you do? This week was for you final recital, concerts, many concerts, and yeah.
Yeah, it was. In fact, it was 3 concerts in 2 days, which is tough. I've had my final master's recital, and then I was doing a piano duo a recital, and then we did our Netherhall recital. So 3 recitals with 3 entirely different programs, and a final master's recital at the RCM, the Royal College of Music. So that was quite exhausting, but also so I do take 1 or 2 days a bit easy, but I do have to prepare for future concerts. So I can't afford taking more than 2 days off.
Absolutely. You will tell us also how you spend your relaxing time, and I'm very curious about this and how you manage the. I think you're very inspiring. I mean, at least for me, on this work balance that you really you have a very good work-life balance, and I really get inspired by you and seeing you, how you behave and stuff. But let me introduce our guest for the people who maybe don't know, Parvis. By the way, his website is brand new and is looking very good. And I suggest everybody to go there and have a look at the website, because it's parvishejazi.com. So it's a very nice website. So I'm there at the moment. So I'm looking at the bio that you have, and I mean, I know you personally, so I won't do any kind of long description of your CV, but just to highlight some good thing about your CV. So you are German, so and you moved in London to do your bachelor degree at Royal College, and you continued your path in Royal College with your master degree, and next year, if I'm not wrong, the artist diploma. So you're doing such a good career in RCM, and you must love that place, right?
I'm sorry, I must.
You must love that place.
Well, I do. I do. It's a great institution.
He studied with Norma Fisher, fantastic piano teacher in Royal College, and yeah, we met actually probably the first time in college or around something around music, obviously, and yeah, so he's graduating now in the master degree. He is an award-winning pianist, and he's known for his captivating interpretation of the most demanding works of piano repertoire. This is nice beginning of a bio, I must say. This is really good. And also he's very knowledgeable about Messiaen, which is a composer that not often is brought to the to the discussions, and I think it would be worthy if you can tell us about Messiaen afterwards, and it would be nice to have a little yeah, a little taste of what Messiaen actually you are doing a lot of research on your own, and hopefully maybe a PhD in the future, so we'll see. Okay, so what do you expect from all of this path from Royal College? Are you expecting something, or?
Well, I think the whole point of an academic education for musicians, for performing musicians, is really to give you the tools to perform. Of course, firstly, the tools for performance, for musicianship, But then musicianship goes so far beyond the mere instrumental skills that we all constantly need to acquire, and which will take a life to fully gain. And if I don't think anybody can fully ever master art, but so the point of an academic education, I think, really is to help the young musician to grow holistically in music. And with all the aspects, you mentioned research before. Research is, I think, so important. Musicology, asking ourselves about what the context is of a work that we play. Music always stands in a historical, cultural context, and that is so important. And I think RCM, Royal College of Music, is doing a tremendous job. I mean, it's not in vain that the place is the #1 institution in the world, and it is precisely because it does manage to nurture talents on a very individual basis. And it has certainly done that with me. And I think now that I sort of have I'm now able to look back over the last 6 years, and I think through all the ups and downs, college has always been a major source of inspiration, of educational support, and I think that is something that, I mean, I expect myself from that to gain really on it, or to have gained in being more and more of a holistic, of a whole artist, of an entire artist, not just of a musician, but of an artist who is aware of the world that surrounds what he does.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's already very, you brought a lot of, you know, you picked up many things that I have already questions about. And I mean, I totally agree with you on the fact that college is one of those institutions that gives you a very broad concept of musicianship. And I think is very helpful for us, even as performers, to have this right approach to music, in which we should really take care of all aspects of the music. And yeah, how do you think should be kind of not mandatory, I wouldn't say mandatory, but highly suggested to do always during your studies, academic studies, something related to research, or whether, I mean, is about studying really on books and not only playing? What do you think?
Absolutely, I absolutely. I think it's paramount. And I mean, I remember terrible stories witnessing at master classes how some people do not know, I mean, basic historical facts that play such a key role in music. I mean, why is it, for example, that in Faschingsschwank by Schumann, there is the Marseillaise that is quoted? So this is an interesting question. Of course, you have to see it in the historical context and so on and so forth. So if you don't, if you're not interested in that, in the historical, cultural, political, whatever you name it, context, psychological context, then you fall short of an essential dimension of what art is about. You then have all the tools, but you do not know how to use them. Yeah, so it has to be. I do actually think it could be mandatory. Yes.
Okay. You see, I mean, I agree partially with you, but I totally understand your point, and it's very important that you know what you're playing and why the composer wrote that. But talking about this, I mean, I'm really interested on your, if you actually dedicate part of your practice routine that you maybe do on a daily basis or with different schemes, I don't know, but you dedicate part of your practice and time yes, I mean, of the practice routine, some research or, you know, studying the piece on a context, broader context. Do you actually dedicate part of your practice routine to that?
I probably should be doing more of it. I very often my practice is really just at the piano, but I do, and I think it is very important. But Horowitz once said very beautifully that the way in which you practice these aspects that you rightly call also research, but they are obviously they're not limited to research. They are if we practice, for example, not too long ago, I was playing the Grand A minor Sonata by Schubert, an immensely psychologically complex work. And in order to understand all these psychological layers, I don't think that studying or researching clinical psychology will help as much as, just as Horowitz said, practicing life. Horowitz said, I practice for 4 hours a day, and the rest of the day I practice life, and that gives me that. So I'm not propagating that every musician should be a researcher. Yeah. Not at all. Okay. Not everyone needs to do a PhD, but you have to be interested in the context of music. And so very often the context of music is everyday life. And speaking of history, politics, they fundamentally shape everyday life. So if we participate with open eyes in the realities that surround us, then immediately we are doing, in a way, our little research. Now that also doesn't mean that we should not do musicological research, which is of course very good and very helpful, and I'm doing that too. But I think, yeah, my advice would be to young musicians, you know, go to galleries, visit, read the classics, read great, good books, read Shakespeare. I mean, if I may just share this story, I was playing Chopin's first ballade many years ago, and I had played it even before in Germany, and then I came to London, and one of my very first lessons with Norma Fischer, whom I've often described as my mother at the piano, I've then played this ballade to her. And she made me, so those that know Chopin's first ballade, it starts with this slow introduction. It's very dramatic, very epic in a sense. And then Norma wanted me to keep reciting, to be or not to be, that is the question. So, of course, famous Shakespeare opening verse, and so that then made me also dive more into poetry and literature. So all these things are interrelated, and all these things inform what we are and what we do as musicians.
Thank you so much for these good insights. There was one comment in the chat from 𝐦𝐮𝐞𝐢𝐳𝐽, a friend in common that we have now. He's a very good composer, and also he's been in the Sunday Musician Café, so one of the first episodes, and he said completely agree. So I remember he was also saying to take inspirations from many other arts, so like going to galleries, going to see theater, and to have this open heart to the most you can of art inspirations. Someone is greeting us from Egypt. Thank you so much for watching us from there. So you touched a point which is very interesting. You said at a certain point that Horowitz as well said that the most of the time he's practicing live. So I know what does it mean, but can you explain to us, to the audience, what does it mean? Because also you played with orchestras, and I think that is also, for me at least, it's one of the most interesting moments for us as musicians, obviously, and we really have to relook at our performances with orchestras, because that's a very, very, very good gym for us as a practice tool, right? What do you think about this?
About the practicing live, or about the
about
orchestra?
practicing live in general, and specifically maybe with orchestras, if you can.
Right. Okay. So practicing live, I think it just means, so first you do, obviously you do your practice right at the piano, but then you go out into your daily life with your open eyes, and you live perhaps as an artist more intensely, maybe, I don't know, but you live with a particular degree of intensity, the joys, the sorrows, the glorious moments of every person. And you live that sometimes that drama, sometimes that tragedy, sometimes that comedy of human life on a day-to-day basis, and all of that informs you. Now, I'm obviously not a woman, so I cannot comment on this, but I was very struck by what Martha Argerich said in this beautiful documentary that I think her daughter made about her.
Yes,
I no longer remember the name, but so she recorded the entire Beethoven sonatas twice in her life. One of the two times was while she was pregnant, and apparently that recording was much faster of all the sonatas than the other one. I'm just saying this to show how external circumstances, how life which we practice will inevitably inform fundamentally how we play and who we are as musicians. And there, I say, so I'm always a bit skeptical when people say express your feelings or something like that while you're playing, because you're doing that anyway. You're doing that anyway. If you are outside in the world on the street, you live, and then you play differently on one day that you will play on the other day. That's just natural. There is no need for an artificial thing.
I mean, I guess also it comes with, I agree with you, but it's also, I think it also comes with experience, because obviously at the very beginning of performer life, probably expressing their own feelings, or being on the stage is not easy. So sometimes we have to really be like aware of what our reactions are, and our nerves and everything. So to take out that all the obstacles that maybe they are there. But I totally agree with you. There is a question about from Abjit, actually, from Shahad the Magdi piano cover, and he's asking, do you have a favorite piano concerto? And then he says, even though practicing live is amazing, I find it somehow intimidating that the entire orchestra is watching the piano. Yeah, right. What do you have? You have a
yeah. So thank you very much for that question from Egypt. Maybe you can write also in the chat whereabouts in Egypt you are. It'd be very interesting. Yeah. But so yeah, it neatly ties with the second part also, Pietro, of your question, which was about the piano and orchestra. And I think that here, I mean, so much in life is fundamentally about sharing, friendship, etc. is about sharing. And as musicians, the two forms in which we experience that the most are chamber music or piano concertos, and chamber music, of course, helps tremendously with piano concertos. So no, I don't personally, and even from conversations also with other colleagues, I do not find it intimidating at all to play with orchestra. On the contrary, contrary to a solo recital where it's just you on stage, with the orchestra you have that enormous support in the back. Yeah. That carries you through, and not just that, but that you are in constant dialogue with. And of course, if it helps tremendously to do a lot of chamber music with that.
Yeah.
Because then at that point you really start just enjoying playing with orchestra,
Exactly.
just sharing that blissful moment of music making.
It's exactly what you said. I think it happened to me the same. And playing with the orchestra is always very, actually, it's challenging, obviously, because you want to be very prepared and not, you're in front of professional, obviously. But on the other side, they are actually very supportive of yours. And it's always very, you know, it's very helpful to see how much people care about your interpretation, and you know they want to help. So it's always very inspiring. So I totally agree with you. So I'm still a student, but I play in the Cairo Opera House. Fantastic. We are waiting for you guys in Egypt. Absolutely, we are coming. We are coming. We are coming. Someone else is saying that we sound sophisticated gentlemen. I take that as a compliment. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so moving on, I think it would be nice to, if you could tell us a bit more, because obviously this conversation could go on and we have many things to talk about, but you are the guest today, and I would like you, if you want to share, to tell us a bit more about Messiaen. So what did you do? Some research in Messiaen, some maybe interesting anecdotes that you have about him, and yeah, what do you think about him? And in generally, how do you see him as a new, probably, composer to be played more often in the music?
Yeah, and I think he will be. I think he absolutely will be. Yeah, I mean, Messiaen is a composer very, very close to my heart and mine, hopefully. Who, yeah, he had this very special gift of synesthesia, that he saw colors whenever he heard sound, and so color is fundamentally is of fundamental importance to Messiaen's compositions. This wonderful book by 𝐭𝐤𝐳𝐬𝐢 that talks about music, sound and color in Messiaen's music. And he was also a deeply devout Christian, and that permeated everything that he did. He always refused being called a mystic, and he was very discreet about his Christianity, but he also never hid it. At the same time, it is so important in his music that all his music is an encounter, or is meant to be or to facilitate, or both, an encounter between man, the human being, and the creator. And even those works by Messiaen that are totally abstract. So that's the fascinating thing. Messiaen is not intrusive. He doesn't force you to buy into his beliefs, but he offers them in a very contemplative way. That his music is a contemplation. It's not program music, and I think that makes Messiaen's music extremely unique. There are, of course, some parallels between Messiaen and Liszt. Also, Liszt was a synesthesis, so Liszt also saw colors when he heard sounds. So did Scriabin. But with Liszt, then also in Liszt's music, you find lots of topics from literature, poetry, but also from theology as well, mysticism. We think immediately of the Dante Sonata. We think of the Harmonie Poétique Religieuse. But I think the difference here is that Liszt is very much in the kind of still, although I wouldn't necessarily call his music program music, he's still very much in the sort of 19th century idea of program music. I am translating or narrating an extra musical program that I take from literature or from theology or whatever. I'm narrating that musically. Whereas with Messiaen, it is a contemplation, which I said at the outset. Messiaen doesn't try to convince you of anything. He doesn't try to narrate. It is his meditation, his contemplation on what he wants to express.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's very enlightening, all of these aspects of Messiaen, and very connected to Christianity and many values that probably he was following through his life, very devoted life probably. But why would you say, what would you say is the reason why the last century, I mean, Messiaen obviously is being played, but to be honest, from a student point of view, I must say that we don't talk about him that much, and I don't think his music is quite difficult to understand and to play. Do you think that is the main reason why Messiaen is not being played so often, or there are any other reasons? Maybe on interpretation side, it is difficult to do.
Well, I think certainly if you see Messiaen among others of his contemporaries, he is quite often performed. I mean, if you compare him to many of his contemporaries. However, of course, you have a point that with Messiaen, first of all, the music often, not always, but often is extremely technically challenging. Which is the first barrier, because particularly when you look at conservatoire level and going for very technically challenging works, then most people would rather play works of the standard repertoire, much rather play Liszt, Paganini etudes.
Yeah.
Then, and there is of course nothing wrong with that. I've played them too, and they're great stuff. But I think and this doesn't only apply to Messiaen, this is a more general comment. I think we really cut ourselves short of a great deal of wonderful music if we only always play the same repertoire all over again, or play the same repertoire in the same way all over again. There needs to be room for exploring the whole breadth and depth of piano repertoire, and I think Messiaen offers so much, and you can, even from a purely pianistic standpoint, you can show so much playing Messiaen's music. I mean, you need such a phenomenal range of sound colors, probably more than any other composer, arguably, because you need to show all these colors Messiaen had in mind.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I honestly never played anything about of Messiaen, and I would like to maybe play with you something, or if there is any for violin and piano. I think there is something for violin.
Yes,
we should play, and I will learn from all your words what I have to do and what I shouldn't. Talking about difficult and challenging pieces, just to cool off a bit the conversation, which is very deep, and thank you very much for your for all your insights, and they are very inspiring. And which is the most difficult piece you have ever played in practice?
Gosh, I suppose my answer to that question changes every day. So one of the most difficult pieces I think that I've ever played, actually, and I've mentioned it before, was this Schubert A minor Grand Sonata, Grand A minor. I'm saying the Grand because there are 3 A minor sonatas. Yeah, that, because with Schubert you have to, on one hand, have that very angular Beethovenian approach to sound.
Sorry, you said Schubert or Schumann sonata?
Schubert.
Okay.
Schubert. I'm talking about the D845 sonata.
Okay.
For those, and so you need, on one hand, this very angular sort of Beethovenian kind of palette of sounds. On the other hand, it is not as strict, perhaps, maybe that's the wrong word, as Beethoven. One time I was studying with Dmitry Bashkirov, the late Russian pianist in Salzburg, at the masterclass in Mozarteum. And so he said Schubert's greatest weakness was, his greatest flaw, was that he overuses the dynamic of piano and pianissimo and pianissimo, etc., etc. It's too much of it. So if you take that literally, you end up really being only quiet, and you can't only be quiet.
Wow.
So Beethoven, in a way, you know, was perhaps more sophisticated in terms of his dynamic notation. But then with Schubert, so you need that precision of sound, but then at the same time you need that Viennese lilt, that Viennese ease to it, and that makes it unbelievably difficult. It's like you have to play Mozart and Beethoven and Schubert at the same time.
I absolutely love Schubert, and one day I'm really trying to organize with other fellows musicians to play the Trout Quintet, because for me it's one of the beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Parvis. It was very inspiring. Generally speaking, would you have give any advice to a young pianist or young musician in general? And what do you think is very important not to forget? So, like a key advice that would you give us?
It's very important not to forget that practice is not just at the piano. It is at the piano, but it is so much more than that. We cannot, and that would be really my advice, because I've myself learned a lot from that realization. We cannot separate as musicians, our professionals from our private lives.
Wow.
We're not like a lawyer. It's a wonderful profession, of course, who was going to his job. He's coming back and he has his private life with his family at home, and then he goes out doing his job. We are doing our job constantly, 24/7, even away from the piano. And that also, in a way that may sound intimidating or burdensome, but I think that is also ultimately what gives us great inner peace. That we are always musicians, and that we are absorbing everything, even when we're not conscious of it. We're absorbing everything into that craftsmanship that we make.
And is so much forgotten nowadays, because this kind of, I would say, unity of life, where you are the same person in everything you do, is very much controversial nowadays, and everybody wants to behave in different ways. I behave differently in my workplace, with my family, you know, and we are very much, as you were saying, I was realizing, we as musicians, we are very much advocate of this unity of life, because it's true. We constantly practicing in a way, so we are constantly ourselves, and we cannot pretend to be someone else on the stage, because it will fall apart obviously after 5 minutes. And yeah, I totally agree with you, and nowadays it's very much forgotten, I think, and people really need this kind of approach to life, I think. So thank you very much. It was an incredible talk, and I wish we could have more time to talk about many other things, because you are a very inspiring person, and I'm learning a lot from you, and not only on music side and playing together with you, but also on life. And I think you have many things to tell us. And
well, thank you very much, and that is much reciprocated. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will close the live and read some questions. You are free to go if you have any things to do. And thank you so much for being such a wonderful guest. And see you very soon.
Thank you very much for having me. See you.
See you, Parvis. See you.
Bye-bye.
You can close by yourself here.
Okay.
What an incredible guest we had today. Parvis is, as you can see, is very sophisticated musician, and he is not afraid. What I really appreciate from his side is that he's not afraid of talking about life and work-life balance. He's very much not afraid of talking about who you are outside the practice room. And I think nowadays it's very important not to forget that we are probably as musicians, but any other kind of job, we are called to be a good person primarily, and be inspirational for other people. We are not just paying the bills, you know. And of course, we are very fortunate of having a talent, or if we have one, and we are very fortunate of being able to play music. Nowadays is almost a luxury to being able to study classical music, and I do understand the difficult path that someone might have, but I do think that whatever you do in life is very important not to forget this kind of things. So yeah, so thank you so much for being at the Sunday Musicians Café. This one was the 7th episode. Next one, next Sunday I'm really looking forward to it, because the guest is really a top-notch musician, and I won't reveal the name now because it's actually a very big name. Hopefully he's going to be next Sunday or maybe another Sunday, but he's very good musician, and he's traveling around the world. And please do follow and follow Parvis, and look at his website, brand new website, parvis.com. And please have a wonderful day ahead. And thank you for following this chat from wherever you are in the world, from Egypt, Spain, Italy, and England here. Very much appreciated your presence here on the live chat. Thank you so much. See you next one.